show you exactly how I usually go about planning and filming in a new destination. I'm gonna show you where I'm gonna get my inspo from, my equipment, my editing workflow, color grading and sound design. This might not be the best video when it comes to planning and executing certain things, but that's how I do things, and hopefully you can learn one or two things from this video as well. So, first of all, why Japan? Japan has always been my personal #1 destination. I always wanted to go, but because of a few reasons I was never able to actually go there until recently, and Japan has been more than I was ever expecting. It's definitely my #1 favorite travel destination now. I love this country, I love the culture, I love everything it stands for. Obviously, like every other country, also has its downsides, but for me personally, there's nothing wrong about it. I really enjoyed my time there and I definitely gonna go back. Reason Japan is my #1 country and I always want to go is because ever since I was a child, I grew up watching animes, I played video games, I played JRPGs, I was very immersed in the Japanese culture when it comes to like media. I felt like I had a certain connection to this country, and when I first got to Japan, that was definitely my first thought, which is why I called my last cinematic piece a sense of nostalgia, because it was my very first time stepping foot in Japan. But I still had this weird sense of nostalgia, like this weird sense of feeling that I was there before. Like the streets didn't feel foreign, the people didn't feel foreign, the way they speak, all these things didn't feel like I was seeing it for the first time. So this is what motivated me to make my last cinematic as well.
Some people have places they always wanted to go.
So, talking about inspiration. Where do I usually get my inspo from and how I plan my shots essentially then. Inspo, super easy. Like I said, I used to grow up on animes, games, you name it. And obviously back in the day I was super into AMVs, which are basically anime music videos where you take your favorite anime and make a little music edit out of it. There are a bunch of crazy editors these days who make these type of videos. I don't know what they feed them, but those edits are crazy insane. I definitely take a lot of inspiration from that, from the visuals from certain animes, because it's very intentional how they show certain things, even the background, the lighting, everything is super intentional, obviously because it's animated. So take a lot of inspiration from that. Second area where I take my inspiration from is Instagram. If I open up Instagram right now and you go to my saved list, you can find a bunch of folders here. And obviously every single time I go into a new country, I make a new folder before I go, which in that case is Japan. Not only is there Japanese content in that folder, there's also things that remind me of or give me like inspirational ideas for things I want to create in Japan or shots I want to have. It can be audio, it can be maybe a different city, it can be maybe different artists with visuals and stuff like that. And just going through here, I get ideas to take certain shots that remind me details, obviously. It also gives me inspiration on like certain locations I could go to. For example, obviously Lawson. Iconic, so we had to go there. But yeah, also like here I got a full-blown audio with a Japanese voice actor. Her whole Instagram is basically just voice acting, and I got so much inspiration just from her voice acting and the way she and the things she says, and that gave me just a couple of ideas of the shots I want to have in Japan. All right. Equipment. When it comes to equipment, I used to be one of those guys who overbought everything, especially when I started out my career. I had like so many different lenses, filters, microphones, gimbals, stabilizers, you name it. I stripped down a bunch because obviously this is my full-time job now. I travel around full-time as well, so I obviously can't just carry around 15 suitcases all the time. So my equipment is the one I'm filming with right now, which is a Sony a7S III with a 24-70 2.8 G master. I got a little 60 buck Rode mic attached to it, a small rig cage and a top handle to make it a little bit more smooth when it comes to handheld shots. In addition to that, I got always 70 to 200 with me. I noticed that I barely use this thing, which is unfortunate because it's such a great lens. I usually only take photos with it, but when it comes to video, I take close-ups of people, of places, because it makes it first of all more convenient, and second of all, it's a little bit more you can hide yourself. You can hide in the corner. People don't usually like see you straight on, so you can actually like get the real faces and emotions of the people who just pass by, which is a great way to take videos. Besides of my lenses, I also walk around with a RS4 gimbal from DJI, which was actually sponsored. I used to use a giant crane the entire time, S2, which was all I needed so far. But yeah, gimbal definitely a must have in my camera bag. I shoot handheld like 90% of the time, but every single time I use a gimbal, I never regret it. I'm definitely a sucker for those smooth clips. It just gives a little bit more of a distance between the viewer and what's actually happening. Handheld looks very like POV-like, hands-on, and a gimbal, like gimbal movements, gives more of like a distant feeling, like actually like commercial vibe, I'd say. Gives the viewer like the feeling he's actually watching and not in the moment. That I like that. I like that about gimbal shots for sure. And last but not least, always have a little magic arm with me to get some special locked on shots in Japan. I don't think I used it, but you never know. You might end up using that thing for very specific shots, and I love them. Like some magic arm shots are so cool. I wish I would do them more often, and honestly, it's so small, it doesn't really take any space in your backpack, so might as well pack it. It's like $10 or something. When it comes to my editing space, I just loaded up my timeline for my last cinematic piece, which is around 2 minutes long, super chill. This is my entire timeline. Sound design has about 16 layers. It might look a little bit all over the place right now, but I'll explain in a minute. All right, so the whole idea was obviously to make a cinematic piece about how it makes me feel more nostalgic. Just a heads up, I am right now on a weekly uploading streak on YouTube, which is why I didn't have time to put so much effort into this piece. So I will come back to that part later. Just want to let you know that it was rushed and I would have made a lot of things differently. Anyway, so my whole voiceover actually like very personal. Like there's a place I always want to go to, which is Japan, and that just gave me a sense of nostalgia. Even though I've never been there. And that was basically the whole voiceover as well. Let me just solo that right now. Some people have places they always wanted to go. And some of those places, sense of nostalgia, even though you have never been there. Exactly. For me, that place was Japan. That's basically the whole voiceover. What I did when it comes to editing is quite simple actually. Obviously I didn't really know what type of visuals I want to go for in the beginning or the pacing and everything. I just knew what type of voiceover I want to start with in the intro and kind of chose a song before I started editing. So that was my song choice. It's very kind of like Asian vibe, gave me like kind of like a Japanese vibe definitely for sure. Had like a slow build up and skip a little bit through, and then a fast-paced section. You hear that in the background? Gives you so much freedom to just like put fast-paced cuts into it, but also the song is not too crazy that you can't put like small little breathing moments into it as well. So definitely was lucky finding that song. By the end of it, I cut the whole song a little bit down because it was too long, because the whole slow section basically repeated itself right here, and I didn't need it. I just needed an intro, fast-paced slow section, and then build up to the highlight section. That's my song, so I cut it basically down, which was that part. Then a little low pass filter, kind of like let it breathe, let it build up, and back into the main part. So that was the whole part. Then for the slow section, I was actually thinking of making another voiceover, but as I was stressing about time, because at that point it was already Friday I think, and I had to post on Monday, I had to come up with something, which is how I found basically that little voice acting girl on Instagram, and found a really cool little voice acting section, which I thought might be really dope to include in my edit, which is why I decided to put a little voice section in that low part here.
兄もしないで座っている方がずっと楽だ。気持ちいいか？いや、違う。
You get it. That was basically all I've done. Did my audio, did my voiceover, did the little voice acting section there, and got my entire audio prepared. And that's what we call a radio edit. You basically prepare your music and your sounds first, and then according to that you're gonna start editing, which can make your life so much easier, because in that case you don't need to come up with visuals on your own all the time. You can actually match the visuals to the voiceover, to the acting, and to the music as you give the pacing first before you make the pacing with the music, if that makes sense. So now that my pacing was basically built, or the only thing I had to do was find visuals that kind of like match my entire edit, which was the easy part, but obviously you have to come up with some special ideas and stuff like that. And I want to have like a little slow build intro, which is why I came up with the little shot here. It was a night shot at next to the famous camera store in Shinjuku, I think. I was really glad we got that shot in the middle of the night. The shop actually just closed, as you can see, and usually the lights shut off right after. But the red neon lights on top of that stay on for like another 10 minutes or something. So we got a really cool shot of the entire shop basically just closed, with just the neon lights on. Definitely one of my favorites, and I thought, why not use that to kind of like introduce the entire thing.
Some people have places they always wanted to go.
Alright, when it comes to editing, I'm a really big fan of having slow moments, breathing moments, and cut that slow movement with a fast-paced section to kind of like change the rhythm every now and then. I like to have those little like sprints in between those little breathing moments, if that makes sense. I don't know why I started it. I just kind of like started on a whim, I say. It's very popular within the editing and filmmaking culture, I think, right now, because so many people are using that technique. But yeah, it just gives also you just a sense of rhythm, which is kind of nice, which is why I came up with that little train section into watching people just walking.
And some of those places giving you a sense of nostalgia.
And then another breathing moment.
Even though you have never been there.
And then as the music was basically just like slowly building up, I just want to have like a long building moment where you just like the little bit sense of nature, a little bit of wind going around, a little bit of like moment of thought, just so you can process what just happened before, because there was like a very fast-paced section in the intro.
For me, that place was Japan.
And now that we had such a long, slow intro, I want to go as fast-paced as possible to kind of like break the entire breathing moment for like a good bit. And back to the breathing moments. Which eventually leads to the drop of the song where it goes to a slow part again. And for that part, we want to kind of like cut the whole pacing, make something special, which is I decided to put the day to night transition in there, because it not only with the audio, it also visually separates the entire parts, like sections, from the slow part to the next section now.
何もしないで座っている方が
Kind of like a new chapter.
ずっと楽だ。気持ちいいか？いや。
And then it was basically just for me matching the voiceover with my visuals again, which was a very, very easy part, because whatever she says, I just try to find a visual that kind of like fits the vibe of whatever she's saying right now.
違う。でも楽なんだ。この考え方から抜け出して生きなきゃいけない。生きることは危険で怖い。でも生きることは美しいんだ。
So that was one part I wasn't really satisfied with. Living is beautiful. Best case scenario for me would have been if I actually would have had like a local female in a traditional kimono or something who was kind of like walking through Kyoto or something with some traditional buildings in the background, and her just like kind of like dancing around and stuff. That was the visuals I had in my mind, but obviously I didn't get those shots in Japan, unfortunately. I will definitely next time, yeah, that was just something I had to kind of like work around with, and I decided to take the shots from my local friend Koa, who's been with us shooting for an entire day. I just thought I might as well just take, if I don't get my kimono girl, I take Koa and put him in a beautiful kind of like voice acting scene. Anyway, with the last part, because it's very like high paced, fast paced, and more like upbeat as well, I end with the thought that everything before that was kind of like dark themed, kind of like moody boy depressed. If that makes sense, I want to have like a full contrast to the beginning of the whole video. So the only reasonable choice for me was to actually put me and my friends, our good times, what we had and everything, into the last part of the video to kind of like contrast the entire edit up until now. Sound design. This is a part I really like. I really try to go hard on sound design every single time I go hop on an edit. I kind of change my sound design every single time I open up a new timeline as well. I learn new things with every single video, which is why my sound design changes all the time. So what I'm gonna show you and tell you right now is just something I learned from my past hundreds of videos, but it's definitely gonna change within the next few as well. So don't take everything I say for granted. It's just something I like to do and do right now. So obviously I'm a big fan of one of my friends' sound design packs, which is Boomer from Multiply Sound. He has a very interesting way of building sound effects, which is building sound effects on keys. So he has not the typical whooshes, hits and rises what you usually use. He has tonal sound effects. So he has, for example, the raindrop hits, which are in all 12 different keys, from A all the way to G. Amazing. Yeah, so the only thing you need to do basically is just open up the key detector. Don't mind my Google, I'm in Dubai right now, which is why it looks so weird. You go on Song Key BPM Finder, open up that page, go to downloads, take one of your songs I take just for kicks. That's Beefy from Artlist. It just happened to be my download file. Upload that, boom, and then give it a few moments. My internet is not the best right now. Then you got the key F minor, BPM 140, which is insane. That's beats per minute. So you can also not only match your tonal sounds to the key, you can also match everything to your beats per minute, because my guy Boomer thinks ahead. He also has tempos which give you 90 BPM, 120 BPMs, and you can always speed it up in your post-production. So what I really love to do recently is just starting my edits with a tonal hit. And my song James Wright, Beyond Horizons from Artlist, has the key D. I think it was D minor or D major. Anyway, which made my life a lot easier, because the only thing I needed to do was basically put a soft piano hit, which is in key D, into my timeline to give a really cool intro like that. I swear, just having that one hit gives you so much anticipation of what's about to happen. I just love using those sound effects, it's crazy. So now it's getting a little bit complicated out of hand, because I'm really ADHD like when it comes to like sound design, because I don't usually, if I would tell people or teach people, I would tell them start with ambient sounds, then go to your whooshes, risers, hits, and then kind of like start going crazy. But I like to build my sound effects timeline wise, which is maybe a way to do it, but maybe not. Anyway, I usually go from left to right. So I did start with the tonal sound effect, which is absolutely amazing. Then I was like, okay, it's kind of like flickering in the background, right? The neon lights. So I needed some flickering sounds, so Florence sounds, whatever, which is why I found these also on Artlist. kind of like LED lights, just or fluorescence lights, just like flickering on, like when you go on the basement, those old basements, and you just flick on a switch and it goes like, you know what I mean. Which is why I had this on. Then I was like, bro, I need like another layer of more fluorescence sounds that kind of like build up to the first cut. So I'll put another layer on it. You hear the sizzling in the background. Yeah, that's what I needed. Another layer of just a switch. Just right there. We just open up that a little bit. Yeah, I love that. And then that part right here, that audio file is basically just what I recorded in camera. I just want to have like some ambient sounds of the actual location in the background. As you can see in effects, I put a low pass on it because it was very, very, very loud. As you can hear, that's too much. You don't want to hear that. So I put a low pass on it to have it a little bit more in the background. Just slightly, just a subtle ambient in the background. That's all I need sometimes. Anyway, putting all my sound effects on right now. That's basically how I start with my sound effects and also make my way through the entire timeline. I show you a few more things. From here, I need to have like some sort of build up because we have our first fast-paced section. So what I did is put a triangle sound, which is that thing. And then I reversed it, and then I got that riser, which sounds like that. Amazing. And I obviously had to fade it out as well. Yep. That's my little riser that kind of like introduces the fast-paced section before it actually comes. So you hear that something's about to happen before it happens, which is really important for me in sound design. It's also called J and L cuts. So basically start the sound before the actual clip happens, and you end the sound after the clip ended. I hope that makes sense. You hear and can anticipate what's about to happen in the next clip, which makes the whole editing process and visually the whole like experience so much smoother. Because if you just end up putting your fast-paced clips in it without anything that anticipates those fast-paced sections, it kind of like makes it look a little bit weird in my opinion, which is why I always end up using those J and L cuts and risers and hits to make it more seamless. And to kind of like smooth out the riser, because it's a very like peak riser, I ended up using not only one, I ended up using 2 whooshes, 3 whooshes actually, ambient sounds and more ambient sounds. And it's also something I like to do. I used to do the type of guy who only puts 1 whoosh for 1 whoosh scene, but sometimes it just feels a little bit empty. And then I found out you can actually layer sound effects. I know, boom, game changing. It makes the whole sound effect so much deeper and immersive. It's actually crazy. So what I love doing for months now is literally take one sound effect, take a similar sound effect or even the same sound effect and layer them on top of each other. Maybe change the pitch a little bit, maybe put a low pass filter on one of them, or maybe even change the speed. So one whoosh sound effect is fast, the other one's a little bit slower. It gives you so much more depth in your sound effect and sound design process. It's really, 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 really something I would recommend everyone doing. Layer your sound effects, layer similar sound effects next to each other, especially if you have like some parts of fast-paced cuts where you need a little bit more of a hit to really sell that section, because there's so much depth into it all of a sudden, and it makes it just so much more immersive. I love it. Going through here, obviously using train sound effects to emphasize that there was a train just going through and everything. Fade it out. Put the noisy camera sound effects I have in here with a low pass. Turn it off. So loud, right? Oh, I would never use that, but put a low pass filter on it. Saucy. I love that. And then risers, hits, let everything fade out. Give it time to fade out as well. That's something I learned as well. Like, if sometimes people literally just fade it out so quickly, you actually notice it, and that's when it kind of like feels off. But that talking sound effect from all the people in the background in the city, for example, let it fade. Give it time. That was like proper, like 3 seconds. I let it fade off 3 seconds. Like, give it time, let it rest. So good. And then rest until the next hit of the music goes in. I love that. Sound design is so fun, not gonna lie. Anyway, ambient sound, emphasize the ambient sound. That part doesn't need to be crazy here. It's very slow, scenic, small bushes, and then another crazy part, a lot of bushes. And that's basically how I go about my sound design, how I do things right now. It's getting crazier and crazier with every single video I'm doing, not gonna lie, because I just find more sound effects and more ambient sounds I really like to include into my videos. And yeah, that's what I just do for the entire video. And then obviously don't be afraid to go crazy with it, be experimental. The voice effects don't need to match the exact thing you see in the visuals, it just needs to like match the feeling, if that makes sense. For example, sometimes I use the chain of a bicycle, this sound effect to kind of like emphasize camera movements and stuff like that. Yeah, and that's everything I have to say about my sound design. Alright, that was a big portion because I love sound design obviously, but now let's talk about my color grading process. Alright people, I prepared 2 clips which I'm going to show you my entire color grading process. This is not going to be a huge part because it's pretty much straightforward how I'm going to do my color grade. This is a night shot right here. Just a heads up, I'm using my own power grade which I carefully built in the last couple of months. I will release this power grade very soon to all of y'all, so you can just like purchase it and do your own little color grades. The only thing which is special about my power grade, obviously besides of having my personal colors, is that I'm going to explain exactly how you split tone and can achieve your very own personalized color grade as well. But this is going to be on a very separate thing, so don't even worry about it. Anyway, when it comes to color grading, obviously I do a CC in and CC out to turn my S-Log3 into Rec 709 picture. When it comes to CC in, I work in a RE White Gamut 3. The reasoning is so I can have more information to work with when it comes to color grading. Also, very important note before you start color grading, go to color management, color sciences, DaVinci Y RGB, timeline color space, it's DaVinci White Gamut Intermediate, and the output color space is Rec 709A. Very important that you have those settings in if you want to replicate my power grade or anything similar, because I noticed that if I export my stuff, it kind of looks differently on YouTube as well as on like Instagram or the other way around. And when I use those settings, everything looks just the same as I color graded in post. So that's definitely big heads up. All right, back to color grading. CST in, CST out. Obviously CST out is from White Gamut 3 back to Rec 709, and then we make our way through. You can ignore that part, but that's my split toning basically. And when it comes to my LUT, I use the Codec 2383 filming LUT, which is built in every single video software you know out there. So basically just chuck your Codec LUT on that and then start working from there So from here on out, it's pretty much straightforward. Setting my exposure, bring it down obviously. Now I'm gonna fix my white balance, which is also pretty much straightforward. I'm either gonna fix my white balance in the primaries, or in effects I have the chromatic adaptation, which is an effect built in DaVinci. Change the method to Cat02, then you change your source to color temperature, a target as well to color temperature, and then target illuminant. It's a very great tool to change your white balance right here, because it kind of like simulates the way how you would change your white balance in camera. It's not perfect obviously, but it definitely gives you a little bit more room to play with. So that's where I usually fix my color grading. Saturation, there's big difference already. I changed my color saturation in the color slice tool. There are multiple videos out there why you're supposed to change your saturation in the color slice tool. I'm not gonna go into why, but definitely use the color slice tool to increase your saturation. It just makes it look so much more realistic, if that makes sense. Then from here on out, I got my pre-contrast. Also big difference. Obviously, when you start filming, we film obviously in a very high contrast profile. To kind of like fix that, we bring the contrast down to 0.8 here in the primaries makes a big difference, and also gives a little bit of a roll off in the shadows. So that's definitely cool. I use masks in all of my color grades, a prism mask, texture mask, vignette mask, which basically just gives a little bit of a blur on the side, a little bit of a vignette, so the entire focus is more like in the middle of the frame. For the highlights, the only thing I do is here, also big difference, but that's basically just a shoulder roll off. So here you got a little roll off in the highlights. That's something really important, I think, because that makes your image so much more cinematic. Just having like a little faded roll off in the highlights and also a faded roll off in the dark shadow side makes, in my opinion, so much more visually appealing than anything else. Post contrast, probably didn't use that, but that's basically same thing, just the other way around. Go post contrast, increase the contrast if you're not satisfied. Post saturation, that's everything after CST, just mentioning. Post saturation, same thing, put a little bit of extra saturation in here, which is also after your CST out, and then got my denoise right before my CST in. Boom. So, second example is my friend Alina. She modeled for us here and there in Tokyo, which was super cool of her. Same thing again, I got my CST in, CST out. That's my Rec 709 picture profile. Lut in there, obviously, we have our highlights fixed, we have our pre-contrast fixed, my split toning, which gives it a little bit more of a like desaturated look. From here on out, that's basically the base profile, fixed exposure, fixed saturation, fixed white balance. Big difference, obviously. I went here very hard here on my offsets and everything. Put so much time into it because I knew this is gonna be a slow scene. You're gonna watch this scene for a couple of seconds or even longer. So we want to put some effort into that scene. Post contrast, I didn't do anything here. A little bit of extra saturation, sharpening, obviously. Got my mask going on, the little vignette, as you can see, for a little sharpening in the middle, and then this piece is probably the most important one. Look at the eye as I turn it on. Boom, so much cooler. Do you see that? The difference? Insane, so insane. What this effect is basically you go on effects, and there's an effect in DaVinci called texture pop. It makes such a big difference. Look at that, you can just pull so much clarity into her eye. It's insane. Just be very careful with it. You might overdo it, so be very subtle if you use that slider. And the only thing you need to do in that case is also just, as you can see, I masked it. I tracked it with DaVinci, which worked first try perfectly, and then put the effect on, boom, done. Also, I put a little bit more of a detail here in the primaries into that eye to really make it pop. But yeah, that was basically the entire shot. Looks insane, I love that. Anyway, there was a quick walkthrough in my color grading process. I could definitely make an entire different video in detail on how I go about color grading and every specific node as well. But that video is, I think, already long enough. If you're interested in in-depth color grading video, please let me know in the comments. But this is all I'm gonna tell you right now. As I said, I am working on my power grade right now to make it accessible for you as well. If you're interested or not, just, I don't know, you can have it. Just also include a full in-depth tutorial on what every single node means and on how I exactly go about color grading. Anyway, final thoughts. As I said, as I am on a weekly YouTube streak right now, I was very rushed when it comes to the cinematic, so there's a lot of things I would have done differently. I would have loved to put a lot more personalized voiceover into it to actually make it more personal. I would have loved to extend the video to maybe like 5 or 6 minutes, show so much more of the footage I got there, because obviously I spent like almost 4 weeks in Japan, and the 2-minute timeline here is definitely not showing everything I've done there, all the best shots I got so far. Obviously the parts where I wish I had like maybe that female local female with the kimono or something, that those are parts I wish I could have like changed. There's this slow part section with the voiceover right now where, looking back at it now, I am not very satisfied. I think I could have gone so much harder when it comes to like editing wise. I could have actually shown like a couple of nice editing tricks in there to really show like some creativity in that process. But that section is as well, like itself, was very rushed because of my time management. But overall, I think this is a video that can be seen, so which is why I still decided to upload it. I will definitely work on a second cinematic part of Japan where I'll put definitely so much more time and effort in, which is gonna be uploaded. I don't know when, I hope in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, that's it for now. I hope you were able to learn 1 or 2 things from this video. I don't know how long this video is gonna be. It feels like it's gonna be like 20 minutes or something already. But there was a very in-depth breakdown on how I make my cinematic pieces, how I go about shooting and traveling, about my equipment, and so on. So let me know if I missed something. Let me know if you want to see something else, if I should make another video on maybe color grading and sound design itself as well, be more in depth in it. Let me know if it actually helped you, and yeah, if you haven't watched it, please watch my cinematic piece of Japan. Obviously it was a rush piece, but I did put some effort in it, so I would mean the world to me if you would watch it. It's only 2 minutes long. And maybe leave a comment. If you do it, maybe say something like, tutorial was gas, bro. So I know that you came from the cinematic breakdown before you watched it. And yeah, I think that's it. I hope you guys gonna enjoy the rest of your week whenever you're gonna watch it. And I'll see you next week. All right. Peace.